Welcome to the channel. This series is about going deeper than the usual World Cup preview. We are looking at how each team actually plays, who matters, what can go wrong, what can go right, and what the real story is before the tournament begins. And today, we are starting with one of the most fascinating teams at the 2026 World Cup, Mexico, a team with one of the most emotionally loaded missions in the whole tournament. Because for Mexico, 2026 is not just about getting out of the group, it is about the fifth game and reaching the quarterfinal. A stage Mexico has not reached since 1986, and now, 40 years later, the World Cup is back in Mexico. So yes, this is exciting, but it is also terrifying, because if Mexico fails at home, there is nowhere to hide. Mexico enters the 2026 World Cup as a co-host, so it did not need to go through normal qualification. That sounds like a gift. And in many ways, it is. No qualifying chaos, no dangerous away trips, no panic about whether the team even makes the tournament. But there is another side to it. No qualifying campaign also means fewer real competitive tests. Less rhythm, less pressure rehearsal. Fewer moments where you learn what this team is made of when things get ugly. So instead, Javier Aguirre has had to use friendlies and regional tournaments as his testing ground. And Mexico's final preparation gave fans real reasons to believe. Mexico beat Ghana 2-0. Mexico beat Australia 1-0. Then Mexico came from behind to beat Serbia 5-1 in its final warm-up match. That is good momentum. But it also tells you something about this team. It can keep clean sheets, it can win from set pieces, it can respond after conceding, but it can also still give you one or two heart attack moments per game because, well, it is Mexico. Hope and stress usually arrive together. Mexico is in Group A with South Africa, South Korea, and Czechia. On paper, Mexico should be the favorite. It opens the entire tournament against South Africa in Mexico City. Then it faces South Korea in Guadalajara. Then it closes the group against Czechia back in Mexico City. This is not a joke group. South Africa is dangerous because it arrives with freedom. It is not expected to carry the tournament emotionally. South Korea has speed, structure, experience, and players who can punish space. Czechia can make the game physical, direct, uncomfortable, and honestly, very annoying. But Mexico should still expect to survive this group, and probably win it. That matters because the bracket could reward the team. If Mexico wins Group A, its round of 32 match should be very manageable on paper because it would likely face one of the best third-place teams. That is exactly the kind of route a host nation dreams of. But then comes the real test. If the bracket holds and the favorites do their job, Mexico could be looking at a round of 16 matchup with England. And that is where the fifth game dream gets serious, because beating South Africa, South Korea, and Czechia is one thing. Beating England to reach the quarterfinal? That is the moment where the whole country stops breathing. Now, we need to talk about Mexico City. Because home advantage here is not just noise, it is not just flags and pressure and 80,000 people screaming. It is also altitude. The stadium in Mexico City sits more than 2,200 meters above sea level. That matters. At that height, there is less oxygen available, which means players can fatigue faster and recover slower between repeated sprints. In soccer, that is huge. Pressing becomes harder. Tracking runners becomes harder. The final 20 minutes can feel longer than usual. And it is not just the lungs. The ball can behave differently too. With thinner air, it can travel faster and feel harder to judge, especially on long shots, crosses, switches of play, and set pieces. For Mexico, that is an edge. The team is more familiar with the conditions. The players understand the rhythm. They know when to push, when to pause, and how the ball moves in that environment. For opponents, especially teams not used to altitude, the Azteca can become a problem before the soccer even starts. But there is a catch. The same stadium that gives Mexico an advantage can also turn against it. If Mexico starts fast, the crowd becomes a weapon. If the players look nervous, the crowd becomes a pressure cooker. That is the beauty and the danger of this tournament for El Tri. The man trying to manage all of this is Javier Aguirre. And he is not just some random safe pair of hands. Aguirre is basically Mexican soccer's emergency specialist. He has been here before. He managed Mexico at the 2002 World Cup. He managed Mexico again at the 2010 World Cup. And now he is back for 2026, trying to guide the team through the biggest home tournament of its modern era. He also understands the World Cup as a player. He was part of Mexico's 1986 World Cup squad, which is still tied to the country's best modern World Cup memory. So, when people talk about the fifth game, Aguirre does not hear it as a marketing slogan. He has lived inside that history. His club career as a manager also tells you a lot about his soccer personality. In Spain, he built a reputation with clubs that often had to survive, compete, and punch above their weight. Osasuna, Atletico Madrid, Zaragoza, Espanyol, Leganés, Mallorca. That kind of career shapes a coach. You learn how to organize. You learn how to suffer. You learn how to steal points. You learn that not every match is won by being pretty. And that is exactly why Aguirre fits this Mexico team. He is not here to build fantasy soccer. He is here to make Mexico competitive, disciplined, emotionally stable, and very hard to kill. His team wants to press, fight for second balls, attack quickly, use wide players, lean on set pieces, and avoid turning matches into chaos unless the chaos benefits Mexico. His biggest job may not even be tactical. It may be psychological. Can he keep Mexico calm when the whole country is screaming for history? Tactically, Mexico will likely start from a 4-2-3-1 or a flexible 4-3-3. But the exact shape matters less than the behavior. Mexico wants to be aggressive without becoming reckless. In possession, the team wants width, quick combinations, and runners between the lines. Out of possession, it can drop into a compact 4-4-2 or 4-5-1 with the midfield protecting the center backs. The key player structurally is Edson Alvarez. He is the lock on the door. He gives Mexico bite, he covers space, he wins duels, he protects the center backs, and he lets the more attacking players take risks. If Edson is dominant, Mexico looks like a serious tournament team. If Edson gets dragged around, suspended, or forced too deep, Mexico can start looking stretched very quickly. Around him, Aguirre has different midfield profiles. Eric Lira gives balance. Luis Romo gives experience. Luis Chavez gives passing range and set-piece quality. Alvaro Fidalgo gives control. Brian Gutierrez gives verticality and creativity. Obed Vargas gives energy. And Gilberto Mora gives the fun stuff, the imagination, the nerve, the why is this kid playing like he does not feel pressure kind of energy. At the back, Johan Vázquez and Cesar Montes give Mexico size, aerial presence, and penalty box defending. At fullback, players like Jesus Gallardo and Israel Reyes can help Mexico push forward, but that also creates one of the dangers. If the fullbacks go high and Mexico loses the ball badly, there is space to attack. That is where South Korea, in particular, could be dangerous. Up front, the big question is still clarity. Raúl Jiménez gives leadership, hold-up play, experience, and calm. Santiago Jiménez gives movement, finishing upside, and a different penalty box profile. Armando Gonzalez gives youthful pressing and energy, so Mexico has options. But options are not the same thing as a settled attack. That is one of the biggest questions of this team. Does Mexico have enough attacking chemistry to break down organized opponents? Or is it going to need set pieces, emotion, and individual moments to carry it? The first player to watch is Raúl Jiménez. He is not just a striker. He is one of the emotional leaders of this team. He can hold the ball, bring others into play, attack crosses, and give Mexico maturity in tense moments. If Mexico is under pressure in the 70-minute and the game starts getting frantic, Jimenez matters. The second is Edson Alvarez. He might be the most important player in the entire squad. Not the flashiest, not always the headline. But he is the player who makes the team make sense. He is the captain, the destroyer, the organizer, and the emotional thermostat. When Edson plays well, Mexico looks stable. When he is missing or struggling, the structure gets nervous. The third is Gilberto Mora. This is the player casual fans need to know. He is young, brave, direct, and willing to receive the ball in uncomfortable spaces. That matters because Mexico can sometimes become predictable. Mora gives the team something different. A little chaos, a little imagination, a little, wait, who is this kid? Energy. And in a tournament, sometimes one fearless young player can shift the mood of an entire country. Also keep an eye on Brian Gutierrez. He scored early against Ghana, delivered a dangerous set piece against Serbia, and looks like a player who can add real spark. Mexico's first strength is home advantage, crowd, altitude, familiarity, emotion. That is a serious package. The second strength is set pieces. This might quietly be Mexico's best weapon. Johan Vazquez scored against Australia from an Alexis Vega corner. Then he scored again against Serbia from Brian Gutierrez's delivery. In knockout soccer, set pieces are not a bonus. They are a survival tool. The third strength is experience. Aguirre has been here before. Ochoa has been here many times before. Jimenez, Edson, Montes, Gallardo, Vazquez, and others know what the shirt weighs. And the fourth strength is momentum. Mexico won its final 3 warm-up matches. It kept clean sheets against Ghana and Australia. Then it scored 5 against Serbia. That does not mean Mexico is suddenly a world beater. But it does mean the team enters the tournament with belief. And belief matters when you are hosting. Now the problems. First, defensive lapses. Against Serbia, Mexico conceded first from a messy moment. Against Australia, one poor sequence almost gave Australia a huge chance. These little errors do not always punish you in friendlies. At the World Cup, they can end your tournament. Second, attacking rhythm. Mexico has forwards. It has wide players. It has young creators. But does it have a repeatable attacking pattern against a deep block? Can it create high-quality chances without relying on emotion, crosses, or set pieces? That is still unclear. Third, pressure. This is the big one. Mexico is expected to advance. It may even be expected to win the group, and expectation can be heavy, especially when every match feels like a national referendum. The quarterfinal is not just a goal, it is an obsession, and sometimes obsessions can inspire you. Sometimes they can suffocate you. So what is Mexico's realistic ceiling? I think the realistic ceiling is the quarterfinal. And for Mexico, that would be massive. It would match the country's best World Cup finishes. It would finally give fans the emotional breakthrough they have been waiting for. The path is there. Win Group A, get a manageable round of 32 match, then likely face the real test in the round of 16, potentially against England if the bracket goes the way many expect. That is the game. That is the wall. That is where the fifth game dream becomes real. Because Mexico does not need to prove it can beat teams it is supposed to beat. It needs to prove it can beat a heavyweight when the lights are brightest. My prediction? Mexico gets out of the group. I think it has enough to win Group A. I think the round of 32 is very winnable. But the round of 16 is where we find out what this team actually is. If the attack clicks, if Edson controls midfield, if the set pieces keep producing, and if the Azteca energy lifts Mexico instead of crushing it, this team can reach the quarterfinal. But if the pressure gets heavy, if the attack gets stuck, and if one defensive mistake shows up at the wrong time, this could become another painful chapter. Because for Mexico, the group stage is not the dream. The dream is the fifth game. And in 2026, at home, with Aguirre, Jimenez, Edson, Mora, and an entire country behind it. This might be Mexico's best chance in 40 years. So now I want to know, is Mexico finally breaking the curse? Or are we all walking straight into the most Mexican heartbreak imaginable? If you enjoyed this kind of deeper World Cup breakdown, let me know. I'm planning to release more team previews, tactical breakdowns, and tournament storylines as we get closer to the World Cup. So if you want more videos like this, like the video, subscribe to the channel and tell me which country I should cover next.